Hey guys, welcome back to the farm. I'm Susie and I'm so glad that you're joining me here today. In today's video, I have a few thrift flips for you. I went into my stash and I pulled out a couple of containers, and then I have a special one that my aunt brought me that she wanted me to make over for her at the end. So this one is just a wood crate. I got this for $1 at a thrift store. I have two of them, but I'm only going to be making over one in today's video. It's completely unfinished, so all we have to do is finish it. I cleaned it up, although it wasn't dirty. It was brand new. And I am giving it 2 coats of Carriage House. I love this green by Fusion. It is such a pretty green and it goes great with any season. So I did miss the inside of it there just because the wood was kind of dry, and this just made it easier for me to move the paintbrush around inside there where it wasn't so easy to get to. Once the 2 coats are completely on and dry, I am going to go into my transfer stash. And I'm going to tell y'all a problem I have, and y'all are going to hate me for it because it's a pretty good problem to have, but I have too much IOD transfers. So I opened transfer books to show you guys new stuff when it comes in, and then I have so much stuff that I never get to use the whole pack. So I have so many opened packs of transfers that I've used bits and pieces of. So my goal for the next few weeks, well, one of my million goals, is to use up a bunch of my transfer scrap. So this is from Milo's Pages, and this is the beautiful floral, and I cannot believe, it looks like I've used a few pieces here and there of it, but I'm just going to cover this one in it. I am deciding what I want to go on the sides and try not to, cut through the middle of any large florals, and not let them, make them be kind of centered in there. If you've never used a transfer before, they're very easy. The IOD transfers all come with this tool, and you just take off that white backing, put it onto your surface, and then you use the little plastic tool to rub until the transfer releases onto your project. You don't have to rub really hard, and if you just kind of lift and rub and lift and rub, you will be able to tell when it's released, and it just releases really easy that way. For this one, I cut the transfer in the slats there, and then I used either my scissors or that transfer tool to push it down. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and for the edges, I am just going to have to use what's left there and piece things together to put a bunch of these flowers on the sides too. The only thing I needed to do to finish this up was seal in the transfers, and I used a matte clear sealer to do that. And look how pretty this is. This would be a great remote caddy or storing other small things, all while looking beautiful in your home. For now, I'm using it to store a bunch of bookmarks that I made in front of my register at the store. For project number 2, this little box showed up in my stash. I don't know where it came from, but Mother told me she got it at a yard sale for 10 cents. Do y'all remember when safari and jungle animals were all of everything? I do, and I had tons of it, and I really, really hope it never comes back in style. To start with, since this is paper on this box, I just took a sanding block and went around it really good, just making sure there were no lifted edges and that everything was smooth before I painted it. So I did that, and then I wiped it down. And for the paint color on this one, I have chosen to use Lichen. It's a fusion color, and I got this sample from Sonnet's Maker's Box in August. And I had never used the color before, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm going to put 2 coats of Lichen on here. I'm being careful not to get it on the black parts. The bottom, the middle, the inside, and that little rim were all in excellent condition, and black goes with about everything. So I'm just going to paint over the elephant jungle paper with 2 coats. For the top of this bird, I decided to stamp the pretty little bird that's in the Charlotte stamp. And while I was at it, I went ahead and got a couple more elements from the Charlotte stamp set. Everything that had wings. I got the bee, the butterfly, and the bird. So that is the theme that we're going with on this box. So I'm using a thin mount and inking up my stamp with some IOD permanent black ink, and I'm just going to center it in the middle of the box and hold my hand down. I always keep one hand in place, and then I use my other fingers to press down on the stamp. I want to make sure all of that beautiful detail comes through my image. And then when you lift up, you just carefully want to lift straight up. You don't want to do any rubbing. And look at that gorgeous detail on this beautiful bird. For the side, I'm going to use the butterfly, but I'm going to kind of catty corner it where it's not all on there. I'm using the same black ink, and I'm just going to stamp that on there. And I'm also going to stamp the little bee over beside the butterfly. And then I am going to use my heat gun to dry the ink just a little bit. I like to let the ink dry naturally. For some reason, it just seems to look better if I let it dry naturally, but it takes a really long time for the ink to dry, but it is permanent. I did get a little spot there, and as you can see, I am just taking my brush and going over that. Usually, if you wipe off of the fusion paint right after you put the ink on, it will wipe off, but for some reason, that little spot didn't want to come off. After my inks were dry enough that I didn't think I was going to smear them, we're going to put a little color on here. And in an effort to use up some of my transfer booklets, I got this little bee from the Brocant. Also got a moth and a few little florals. And I'm just going to stick them randomly all over this box. We are sticking with the winged creatures here, so everything can fly. I'm going to put these little flowers here to give this bee something to pollinate. And then I want to put some script on the top, just right under that little bird. And I looked through the transfer booklet, the Brocant, because I had it out, and everything in it was French, and I don't know French, but I thought since everything on this little box has wings and can fly, that I would put the word fly right under that bird. Now, I needed something small, so I got out my Apothecary Labels stamp, and I picked up this little label and used the smallest font that was on there to spell out the word fly. At first I thought maybe I could stamp them together, but the letters were a bit too thick, so I stamped them separately. I first inked up the label, stamped it, and then I did the word fly, and I think it just tied this box together. This is another great way to store small things in your home that you just don't want laying around, but you want to be out of sight, out of mind, and instead something beautiful be in its place. The last project of today is my favorite. My Aunt Marcia brought me this. It's a cardboard box, and it's nothing special. I just think she picked it up. She thought it was cute. It's actually a record holder for 45s, and she actually wants to use it. She asked me to make it look kind of retro, and we picked out a decoupage paper to go with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is there was a little bit of cardboard loose there, so I just glued it down and taped it and left it overnight to dry. And then the first thing I'm going to do anytime I decoupage, I want to have a light background, so I'm giving the entire box, everything, 1.5 coats of this. I think this is casement. This is a fusion paint color. It doesn't have to be a perfect paint job. It just needs to be light so that your decoupage paper really pops. Now, the decoupage paper that we chose was the numbered decollage, and what caught my eye on this one, I love this paper. It is so pretty. It has so many colors, and color is my jam, y'all. I love it. But it had this 45 on it, and I wanted to showcase that since this is a 45 record box. But to start with, I'm going to cut out to do the bottom half. I'm going to save that 45 because I'm going to put it on the top. And I'm going to decoupage the same ways I always do. I love to use the Fusion Transfer Gel, and I do a small starter strip. Now, this box is pretty big, and I was a little nervous about going around. I cut out for the class there, but once I started laying it down, it was so easy to put it down on this box, and I just went around each corner. Instead of cutting each side, I just kept going until I got all the way around the box. And the way that I do it is I put down the decoupage paper, I wet the paper, and then I smooth out any wrinkles. This one didn't get any wrinkles because I was kind of pulling as I was laying it down. And then I do another layer of the transfer gel over the top of it. I almost had enough to finish it here, but I had to get a little scrap. But the great thing about this decoupage paper is it's a collage anyway, so you never even notice that I added a different piece in there. I let the decoupage paper dry for several hours. You want it to be very dry when you do this so you don't rip it. And then I took my little finger sander and I sanded off all the excess. For the top, I originally wanted to use musical notes on the top, a decoupage paper that had musical notes, but I felt like that would just be too much. So instead, I found a color that was in the decoupage paper, and this is Brook by Fusion, and it matches perfectly with a couple of the different elements in the paper. And I gave the top and the bottom, the very bottom, 2 coats of Brook. I decided to go ahead and paint the handle in the same color because we are going to still do something with that 45 on the top here. After the paint had completely dried, like I said, I knew I wanted to use the 45 on here, but I decided I did not want to decoupage the entire top of the box. So instead, I just cut out the 4 and the 5 separately. It was quite a chore. The 4 was really, really easy. I left a little bit of an outline just so they would really, really pop. And the 5 was a little bit of a booger, but I got it. And even if I had torn the 5 or something, it's very easy to put things back together when you are decoupaging. And then I just got them all cut out and I decoupaged them directly in the center on the top of the box. And then once this is dried, it is sealed. I've already sealed everything with the transfer gel, and the Fusion paint has a built-in sealer in it, and this is such an improvement. Y'all, this is just a cardboard box, and now it is the cutest little retro 45 record holder. Thank y'all so much for watching today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Leave me a comment below. Make sure that you like and that you're subscribed to my channel. Next Wednesday, I have 2 new product announcements that I'm super excited for, and I hope to see you guys then.